Hello, and welcome to this episode of Sponge Stories. Today I'm joined by Lisa, the face painter behind POP Stencils and Face Paint Pro. Lisa's built not only one, but several successful businesses within our industry. And I'm excited to hear how she went from painting faces to creating stencils used by face painters all over the world, and then opening her own physical shop up in Glasgow. So, Lisa, welcome to Sponge Stories.
Thank you for having me today.
Can you start off by telling us a bit about yourself and how you first discovered face painting?
Well, I actually started face painting when I was about 13, I think. Actually, my sister was probably about 9 or 10. She got one of those little snazaroo beginner sets. Remember the wee kind of blue one, and it had
Yeah.
the little tiny bits in it? Yeah. And then we had like one brush and like two sponges, maybe. I got one
Yeah.
of them and I had a go and I thought I quite like this. And I got a couple of other wee kind of colours to start off with. And I started charging my friends, little brothers and sisters, 50 pence for their face painting. That's how I started. And I used to sit in my front garden as well and charge them 50 pence, so my little sister's friends, when I was about 13. And then as went through high school, I would bring it in on like the fun days as well and
Mm.
paint people in school. And that kind of kept going until I was about 15 when I was asked by a face painter who was quite well known in Scotland at the time. I got a phone call basically saying, all the face painters are booked in Scotland. Would you be available to paint at this party today? And I was like, okay. And then they're like, oh, no pressure. It's actually for the marketing manager's child of the big theme park in Glasgow as well. So I was like, okay. So I did it. Looking back, it was probably awful, most awful face painting ever. But she seemed to appreciate it because obviously there was no one else. And
Mm.
she did offer me a job when I was older, but I never learned to drive when I was around that age. So I would have never managed to get there because it was like quite difficult to get to. But yeah, that was quite terrifying. And I think that was my first kind of paid job. I think she gave me £60 for it, and that was about 2.5 hours of work. So
That's not bad, is it?
yeah, yeah, not bad for a 15-year-old. I thought I was
No,
rich, obviously.
I'd be thrilled. When I was 15, I was doing a paper round. I used to get paid. I used to have to go out 6 days a week, deliver these like 20 papers and do a circuit of our town. And at the end of the week, I got £16.50. And when I think about that now, I was like, I was out for like 2 hours every morning. That's
Yeah, that's
crap.
like child labour, isn't it?
Yeah,
Mad.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I
it's
would have been
crazy.
absolutely delighted with 60 quid. Would have been great. So did you then start doing face painting as a little side hustle to earn like proper money rather than just 50p here and there after that? Or did you leave it for a
After
bit?
that, I did leave it for a bit. I think I remember dabbling in it again when I was like 16, kind of 17ish. And then I started uni when the big kind of financial crash hit. I think that was
Mm.
2007 or 2009. I can't remember. Um, and I was like, oh, well, there's no jobs. What am I going to do? So I put a poster up in a local cafe in Shawlands, which is actually where I live, near where I live now. And it just so happened by chance that the Glasgow Council organisers and the Southside Festival organisers had their meetings at the back of that cafe, and they saw my poster that I put in there. So they ended up hiring me for 2 days for that festival. And that kind of covered my first kind of half decent kit and my insurance and everything. And it kind of started from there. My kit still wasn't great at that point. I think I remember having like a wooden table, a tiny little wooden table, and just kind of basic paints and brushes. When I look back at photos from then now, I'm like, oh my God, they were so bad. But I kind of threw everything into it at that point because I was like, oh, this is like such a good job. I get to do art. I get to go to cool events. Part of it's kind of terrifying when you turn up at an event and you're like, oh, this environment's kind of new, but I still really enjoyed it. And then from there, there was actually another post. I think it was Facebook kind of started getting bigger about that time. And one of the nightclubs in Glasgow were looking for a face painter. So I got that job, and that was a Wednesday night. And at that time, I just started university. So I was studying architecture.
Oh, okay.
But every Wednesday night, I would still go out to about 2 o'clock in the morning and somehow make it into uni for like 9 o'clock the next day. And then I think that must have been about when I was like 20, 21-ish. And at one point, I think I was doing about 3 nightclubs a week. So I was kind of balancing the nightclubs and doing birthday parties at that point, which was, with university, was quite a lot.
So what made you want to do architecture at university then?
I don't know. Why did I think that was a good idea? You know that way when you're like in high school and you've got a list of things to look at and they're like, oh, this is a good job. Why don't you do that? And why don't you do this?
And you sort of
And I
weigh up
remember,
what's the
and they're
highest
like,
paid.
you've got the grades to do this. Why don't you go do that? And I actually wanted to be a vet. but they totally put me off it because they're like, you need straight A's. And even if you get straight A's, like only 70% of people get in. So one of the open days, I was like, oh, well, that's a bit intense. I don't think I'll get straight A's. So that didn't happen. And then I looked at all the other jobs and they're like, well, you like designing stuff and you like drawing. What about architecture? And I was like, yeah, I don't think I'll hate that. But I remember my 5th year higher art school teacher was trying to convince me to do jewellery at the Glasgow School of Art. And part
Mm.
of me now wishes I had done that because for that final that year, I had wire wrapped a lot of it was like fairy-like jewellery, so it was all quite intricate with beads and things like that. So yeah, I don't know why I didn't listen to her and do jewellery, to be honest. Instead, I did architecture, which I don't fully regret because it is a really interesting subject. And some of my best friends today are from that course because
Mm.
it's so intense. And it is really interesting, and it's good when I go to buy a house or look at other people's houses now. I can be like, yeah, don't buy that house because that's damp, definitely damp and awful. Not built very well.
It's
So
funny, isn't it? I chose PR and marketing at university, and I'll be honest with you, even when I had to write my personal statement, I don't think I knew what PR was. Like, I
well,
just couldn't really grasp the concept of it, but in my head, I just thought I'd be like I think I watched that film, Confessions of a Shopaholic or something like that, or like The Devil Wears Prada, and I was like, "Oh, I'll be able to work in London, and I'll be like a cool marketing firm or something." That's all I thought that I wanted to do. I had no idea what the course was about, no idea what you'd need to do. And obviously, I didn't last very long because sort of came back down to reality with a bump after about 3 months of being there and thought, yeah, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to pay all this money to do
yeah,
this.
yeah, you think of the glamorous side of it. But I remember starting architecture and some people were like, "Do you actually know any famous architects?" And I was like, "No." So they were
No.
all quite a lot of them were quite obsessed, and you get, like, your celebrity architects, and they could tell you loads about them, and I was like, not actually really looked at anything to do with this course before I started it. Really, it was like, why did I choose this? And I did try and leave. So in Scotland, you get a false start. So if you only do
Mm.
so much of the course, you get your funding again for another year. So I did try and leave, but my guidance teacher at the time convinced me to stay and maybe just do it to 3rd year so you get like the basic degree. And I did go back in the middle of a project and I actually did the project in half the time and then got like a merit grade for it because I think I was given such an intense deadline and I actually kind of liked the subject.
Mhm.
So they're like, look, you are actually kind of good at this. And I'm like, no, only when I'm under intense deadlines and I
Yeah.
have to do it, which is probably the kind of neurospicy part of me there. But I was like, "Yes, I actually don't enjoy this."
So what made you decide to stop following architecture and then do face painting full time?
I think I was in 3rd or 4th year, and then it was just I remember saying to my lecturers, like, how much money I would make on a Wednesday night, and they're like,
Mm.
"Why are you still in university, really?" Because a lot of them I remember having, like, coffee with some of my lecturers, and they were still paying off their student loan, and they'd wished that they'd been a doctor or something else. So a lot
Yeah.
of them were kind of regretting their choices at that time. So yeah, those conversations with the lecturers. And then 3rd and 4th year was really hard. And we were still in a kind of financial downturn at that point. And in architecture, and I don't know if it's the same in England, you have to leave after 3rd year and do a year in practice, and then you come back and do another year in uni, and then you do another year or 2 in practice. So it's like 4, 5 years in university, but then you have to do about 3 years in practice, and then you sit an exam, and then you're an actual architect. So at this point, I was trying to find a practice to go into, but one of the biggest firms in Glasgow had went from like 100 and I think it was 120 employees down to like 20. So finding somewhere to go was really difficult. And I was like, oh, like signs here are pointing to me that this isn't going to be an easy path at the moment. And then I ended up taking a year out and actually just being a chef for the year. And then I went back
Okay.
to uni without finding a spot. So, and that happened to a couple of other people that they couldn't find work in a practice that year without travelling quite far away. So I ended up being a cook for a year. And then I think in that year I actually did a foundation course in makeup, like an intense foundation course. And I quite liked that. But I thought I'll go back and do my last year to get my honours degree. And then after that I did leave. So yeah, why did I leave again? I left and then I did digital media because I thought I enjoyed the illustration and drawing part of it more. So I
Mm.
went and did a HND in digital media for 2 years, which is what taught me all the kind of computer programs which I now use for stencils. And then after that, after those 2 years, I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a tech teacher. And then I did that for a bit and decided I don't want to work with teenagers every day. But from being in that department, that's how I learned how to use a laser cutter, which kind of feeds back into how I ended up making stencils, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to explore. So I did similar in my sort of early 20s. I went to uni because that's what everybody else did and that's what I was expected to
Yeah.
do, and realized that I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be doing that. And then just sort of just dipped my toe in for about a year and a half to about, say, 5 or 6 different careers. But
Yeah.
I learned a lot in a quite short amount of time, and I think that's what your early 20s is for, right? Is to just see what you do and don't like. Like, I'm so pleased I did all those different things now, because now I can say that I gave certain things a go and they didn't work and that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think you take little snippets of everything that you do, and then that goes into
Mm,
something else. And I think your early 20s should be just practicing your people skills and how to navigate situations.
mm.
And I don't think you really learn that when you're stuck in university. I think you need to be in a workplace to actually kind of grow more as a person and be ready to then go into a workplace after it.
Yeah, and I
Mm.
think I've worked in hospitals. I've worked like in the pharmacy departments in hospitals. I've worked for public sector councils. I've worked corporate jobs. I've worked small family run businesses to large, massive businesses internationally and stuff. It took a long time, but I realized I'd quite like to be self employed. But I can say that I've worked in so many different types of businesses and organizations, and you do learn a lot of skills, people skills, especially in working with others and stuff along the way. Yeah, when did you decide to actually set it up as a company?
When I was at university, I kind of had it on the side, but I didn't really have proper branding and stuff, I would
Mm,
say. Just was kind of by word of mouth. Yeah, so it's always kind of been there, which is why now I'm like, I don't actually know what else I would do because I've done it since I was like 15, 16,
mm.
and it's so much part of my life now. I guess I can't really imagine it not being there. But when I finished that part of university and I went to do digital media, I did spend a little bit more time on my branding and bits and bobs, and I felt more professional then, I guess. Versus during university, it was always something that I would maybe give up once I got a proper job. And it was just something that wasn't probably my main focus at the time, I guess. But after I left university, I put a little bit more effort into it.
So when did you start doing pop stencils then? Did that happen sort of from leaving uni, or were you face painting solidly
That
for a few years before doing the
That
stencils?
was around 2016, 2015, I think. I bought a Cricut and I thought, "Oh, maybe I could make some stencils on this." And I remember stencils were still not really a thing that much when I was at uni. I remember you got those, remember the foil, like, texture things? Face painters from that started quite a while ago remember this. They're like foil with holes in it. We used to put that on the face, and then that was like your scale texture. And then a few stencils kinda commercially started coming out, but I didn't really use that many of them at the time because I found that if it wasn't on my table, I wouldn't use it if I had to search for it. But then I kinda got round to the idea of, okay, maybe you should actually give this a go once you've had a bit of practice at applying it. Because at first I tried it a few times and it was just a big splodgy mess as well, and need to get the knack for it. Once you get the knack, you're like, "Okay, maybe I can do some other things with this." And it was around the time My Little Pony got really big, and that was a kinda trend, and I remember doing it freehand a few times and being like, "Oh god, that looks like a drunk moomin." If you don't get the base shape quite right, it just doesn't look right. So I was like, "Maybe I can make a stencil for even just the base shape, and then I won't have drunk moomins." So I had a shot and I made a few, and then I put a few online and, people asked if they could buy them. So I think that was my first ever stencil was the My Little Pony, and then I did a Nightmare Before Christmas one. I've got it in the office somewhere, actually, the original ones. I should frame them.
Yeah, have them in a frame.
Yeah, the originals. And it kinda went from there, but at that point, I was actually at uni at that time because I remember sitting in my bedroom trying to make stencils, and, like, if you've ever used a Cricut for stencils, probably about 50% of the time it works, and then your blade will end up blunt, and then sometimes it'll cut half of it, and then sometimes it'll cut all of it, and sometimes you have to go over it about 6 times, and then you get a stencil. So it can be a really frustrating experience,
Mm.
but then at that time I had a flatmate at the time that had bad psychosis, and she ended up violent. So I ended up leaving uni because of that. That was when I was doing teaching at university. So I left university and I ended up going to work in France with my boyfriend at the time as a chalet host for 5 months. So I kind of had to give up everything and stencils and face painting. And I took a little kit with me and like a sketch pad and stuff with me to France. But I was in the Alps and like beautiful like hills and mountains. And I'd sit outside with my face paint kit and I'd have more ideas for stencils and things I could do when I got home. I got really into searching my kit that I wanted when I got home. You know, when you go through all the different cases and the rifle cases, and I sat there and I was like, okay, this one has the right dimensions. And I was like, absolute crazy person, excited to get back to face painting, I think, when I was being a chalet host in France. So yeah, I was taken away from it for 5 months at that point. And then when I got back, I went back to my old department. So they had a laser cutter in the department, but you had to book it in slots of, I think it was like an hour or 2 hours at a time. And I kind of got to the point when I did eventually set it up for proper orders. I think it was via my Facebook group. I kind of launched it on just a Facebook group, POP Stencils. I went from maybe like 20 people in this group to like 300 in a night. And then after a few weeks, there was like 1,000. So I got to the point where I couldn't book the laser cutter enough to make enough stencils. And that was quite frustrating. And I think they were getting a bit annoyed at me as well because I kept booking the laser cutter. So my gran eventually gave me the money to buy my own laser cutter at home, which was really exciting. And then I remember it arrived at my house and I had plans for it to go in the spare bedroom and had my office all set up. But the laser tube like butts out from the machine by maybe about 30, 40 centimeters and it wouldn't go round the door. So I ended up with my living room as my office because that's the only place my laser cutter would fit at the time. So that became new Pop Stencils HQ.
Wow. I love pop stencils. They were recommended to me during my training course with Donna anyway. And she said, these are the stencils you want to get. And I
Thanks,
bought,
Donna.
yeah, she's a good egg, isn't she? I got a couple of pop stencils and then a couple of other branded stencils. And I have to say, your ones are the best ones. Like all of the other ones have like either broken or gone a bit, oh, they're just a bit naff in places, or like some of the details have come out. So yeah, I've basically pretty much converted to purely pop now. So must be
Thank you.
the super duper laser cutter. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when starting out then, as in like deciding to go full-time face painting and stenciling, apart from having to set up the laser cutter in your living room?
Full-time face painting is, I think you need to learn when to rest because you can be a bit like, you can panic that you're not going to have enough money or you're not going to be busy enough. So you'll maybe say yes to too many jobs that maybe you shouldn't. And then by the end of the week, you're absolutely exhausted and you've not rested enough. And also, I would streamline your admin as much as possible because when I started, I don't think there was such a thing as like online forums, and like websites were kind of still in their kind of early stages, but all that kind of stuff, if you can streamline that and automate it as much as possible, I think that really helps because you always get that dreaded double book and all that kind of stuff in the beginning and you feel so bad and you're like, oh, if I just organised that part of it better, that probably wouldn't have happened. Yeah, I think the dreaded double book is probably the scariest thing ever.
Yep. It's
I
horrible,
think
isn't it?
I know, and I don't think I've had one in a year and a half, maybe, touch wood now, but when it does happen, you're like, "Oh my god, like, how have I missed that?" Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible. I had one a few weeks ago where I had said I was available to help another face painter, but I hadn't blocked it out on my website and I have online booking. So in theory, my online booking stops two customers double booking because as soon as it's gone, they can't
Yeah.
book online. But what it doesn't stop is me going, yeah, I'm free without checking properly because I hadn't updated my actual calendar. And then I just felt so awful. And it's just like horrible having to write that message of like, God, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm
I
so sorry.
know.
Like full on eating humble pie. Like, I'm so sorry. But I mean, it all worked out in the end. We got cover. So it was fine. But
Yeah. As long as you've got a good network of face painters, it tends to work out
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Even with my online forums, I do that as well. So if another face painter asks me to work something, I need to remember to block that out on my online form, which you
Mm.
don't always remember to do. And then I've also got it on my phone as well. Try to block it out on your phone. And I don't use a paper diary anymore because I'm just too scared I'll lose it.
So is there anything you know now that you wish you'd known when you first started?
Maybe, yeah, don't buy a cheap gazebo is the first one because you will buy another one. Yeah, invest in good paints, I guess. And when I started, there was no like YouTube or online lessons at all. I remember going to my local library with my like library card and getting out the Usborne. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 face painting books, and then trying out the different designs in that. But there's such a wealth of information now online, and I think I must have been in like my mid-20s before I actually discovered focal points and like flow and negative space. And then once that happened, I was like, oh, this actually all makes more sense now. So yeah, when I meet new face painters now, and I'm like, yeah, study your focal points. It makes such a difference to your face paint. Yeah.
So do you still do the face painting as well?
Yes. So Saturday and Sundays I'll stuff still face paint. Maybe occasionally during the week, but not that often. But yeah, there was a point kind of before COVID when I thought I'll give it up and just focus on the shop. But I think I'm a better stencil designer when I am face painting because on the job you think of things that you could maybe make to help certain like
Mm.
characters and things better. And then it's also a source of inspiration, I guess, for other stencils. But then post kind of COVID, we had a big kind of boom here in Scotland. So there was loads of events. So because people love to party after a lockdown, apparently. So I was like, oh, there was loads of jobs. So I kind of had to balance that out with the shop. From going from absolutely nothing during COVID, like the sales were very, very poor, obviously during COVID, and I was just basically coming in to tidy up or do odd jobs. And then all of a sudden, there was a big boom in the face painting industry and jobs wise, and then people needed to restock their kits. So there was a bit of a balancing act there. And I think when things are taken away from you for so long, like during
Mm.
COVID or when I was working abroad, you kind of miss it. I wanted to get back to it at that point. So now I don't think I'd ever fully give up face painting. I think I'd always keep 1 or 2 jobs a week because I'd miss it. And like I like being out and seeing people, and it's nice seeing your face painting friends, especially when you're on like a big group job.
So when did the idea for Pop Stencils start then, as in like the branding? Because the branding's great. It's that real sort of like pop art, Pop Stencils
Thing.
style branding. How did you come up with that?
I think that was probably when I was in France, when I was just sitting like obsessing over stuff I could do when I get back. So, because I used to sell quite a lot of glitter when I started, so I
Mm.
was going to be glitter and pop, but then I dropped the glitter and just became pop. Yeah, which I think works out better. It sounds better. It's better to just be like one word, I guess.
It's definitely memorable.
Yeah.
So was there a specific moment when you realised that there was a gap in the market for the stencils then? You said that there were a couple, but it hadn't really kicked off yet.
So that would have been 2017, I think, because I got back from France in April 2017, and then I set up my website in May 2017. So yeah, it would have been around about then when I properly set it up as a website. Because before that, I was just taking orders through Messenger, which is not fun. It's very, very, very confusing. And I was just, yeah, I don't recommend doing that to anybody. I was like, no, I need a website. I need a list of orders with people's names and their addresses. Otherwise, I'll forget things.
And what's the biggest business lesson you'd say you've learned from Pop Stencils then?
To trust your gut, I guess. And I think women can sometimes make themselves feel, I think we can scared that we're not like being affordable or reasonable and
Mm.
things like that. We can kind of downplay our business sense and our sense of self actually and our self worth. And even with a lot of new face painters, they're scared they're not affordable enough. They're scared they're kind of ripping people off kind of thing. And I'm like, no, when I go and give money to someone for a service or a product, I want them to be not surviving. I want that person to be thriving and being able to put money back into their business, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, don't make yourself small for other people, I think is one of the main aspects of that. And trust your gut and also surround yourself with a network of people that you trust and ask for help when you need it. I think that's probably the main thing. Don't be scared to ask for help. Even today, if I'm not sure about something, I'll phone like Magic Box or Too Many, or even just for advice. I think that's probably the greatest help as a retailer is being able to speak to other people that probably know better than you about a lot of
Mm.
things, and they've been going a lot longer than me. Because when I started Pop Stencils, I hadn't really even worked in retail at that point. And even today, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why am I even doing this? How did this happen? One minute I had a cricket, and the next minute I've got like a load of stencils, and now I've got a shop. Like, wow. Yeah. Yeah, definitely have a network of people around you, even like your local face painters locally. That's a big help. Don't do things by yourself.
So, what does the process of designing a new stencil look like? So,
So originally, I would just draw. I would draw on paper and then scan it in or take a photo of it and then draw over
mm,
it in Illustrator. I did buy an iPad thinking, right, I'm going to design loads of stencils now because I've got an iPad and you'll go straight on the iPad and you'll draw. But sometimes I still prefer painting or drawing first and then I'll take a picture of it on the iPad and draw
mm.
over it. And then it goes into the computer to edit it. And then it goes into the laser cutting software. And then it gets cut and then tested. So, but sometimes a stencil can take like an hour, and then sometimes it
Mm.
can take 3 days, and then other times something won't be quite right, and I'll leave it for like 2 or 3 months, and I'll come back to it.
So, how do you decide which ideas are worth developing then? Do you have to keep sort of like
I
up
think
to date with the trends and the new films that are
yeah,
released?
see what's online, see what people are struggling with. And so if there's like a character shapes people are struggling with, have a shot at making a stencil of it. And then sometimes if I'm excited to use a stencil, so if I'm starting to design something and I'm like, oh, that's really cute, and I'm excited to use it, then I'm like, oh, this one should be quite popular then.
Have there been any products which completely surprised you in terms of popularity?
Yes, sometimes they're really simple ones, like I've got it. Have I got it here? Oh yeah, this one. So just that one is really simple,
Ah,
but that
that's
one's
my
been really
favourite
popular.
mermaid one.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's so simple, but it's really popular. So yeah, sometimes I design stuff and it can sit there for a while, and then it becomes really popular. And then if I go to a jam, some of the trending things can be really popular. But then
Mm.
when I was at the Yorkshire Jam, that was really popular, and I'm like, that's like 5 years old now, and it's funny how things come back.
Yeah, that's my
So
favourite. That's my favourite mermaid one. I have maybe like 5 stencils that I actually use because, full disclosure, I don't usually like stencils
yeah. But I was the
because
same, like, I designed stencils because I didn't like them.
mm,
So, I found if stencils are in 2 parts and I lose one part, then I just won't replace it. So that's why
yeah,
most of my stencils have got 2 things on the one bit. But that's the kinda size, this size. I was like, "That's as large as I can go, because any
yeah,
larger than that, I would find it annoying round the face."
yeah, yeah.
And also, because if you can't find them, you don't use them. So the holes there are to go into binders, so you can flick through a binder. Um and also it doesn't fly away then. You don't lose it 'cause it doesn't
Yes.
fly away, hopefully.
I just struggle with like it being too wet underneath, and I'm too impatient to wait for it to dry underneath before putting it in, and then it'll all bleed and stuff. But I've now got sort of like 5 solid stencils that I use, um, and they just work. They work for what I need and for what I like doing for my designs. So I like the stitch one that you do
Mm.
because I like freehanding a lot of it, but it gets those proportions perfect. And if you get that stitch head proportion wrong, it doesn't look anything
Yeah,
like
and he looks a bit
stitch.
funny, doesn't he? I've done a lot of odd looking stitches sometimes.
But that just allows it all to be like the perfect proportion, and then I can freehand in between and finish it off in between without worrying about the sort of the bleeding and the smudging and stuff. But I use a lot of the stencils now with the Star Blends powder. The football one was a lifesaver the other day at a football tournament that I was at, and it's just so easy to put down the white base, flip it over, Star Blends on top, literally 30 seconds. Perfect. Yeah. That mermaid and the stitch one and your football one are up there with my favourites. Have you had any products that look great on paper, like when you're designing it, but then when it's actually printed out and you're trying to use it, just doesn't work in practice?
Yeah, so in the beginning, when I was still kind of figuring out stencils, ones with little intricate bits or like things with swirls, they tend to not work out very well just because they bend. And also, when you're
Mm,
using them on the face, sometimes they kind of flip up or they can end up a bit scratchy and then they break really easily. So I always try and design the stencils so that you'll get a good amount, a good run out of them basically. And what other ones? Text as well can be quite difficult as well because you still need it to be legible, but also, again, not tiny little bits. Because if the bits are too close together, you find they just bleed. So
mm.
there's a balance there with stencils, I guess.
What's your favourite stencil that you've ever made?
That one, because I really wanted to make that one. So it's like eyeliner that bursts into bats. Very cool.
That's cool. I'm going to get one of those for Halloween. Yeah, I like that. So you've now opened up Face Paint Pro, which is an actual physical shop and obviously online shop as well. So what made you want to branch out from just the stencils then to being a stockist for Glasgow in Scotland, I suppose.
Um, well, when I started face painting in Glasgow, there was only 2 shops, and I think one sold Snazaroo and the other one was Grimace.
Mm.
And then there was some yeah, there was access to some paints online, but there wasn't the kind of vast, choice that we have nowadays, I guess. And there was nowhere when I started to go and actually browse, like, a good array of face paints or ask advice really and, maybe do, like, kinda workshops and things like that. It's not quite big enough for big workshops at the moment, but I'd like to expand into a space where we could have bigger events eventually.
So, what have you learned about retail that most people wouldn't realise? Sort of what's involved, I suppose.
There's a lot of admin involved, a lot more admin since Brexit, COVID, especially with all the new rules coming in with cosmetics. And I think lots of people think we make lots of money, but a lot of products maybe only have like 35 to like 15% profit margin on some things. So you need to sell quite a lot of items to
Mm.
make your money back.
And is
Mm,
that before tax as well?
yes.
Yeah, so
So
then after tax as well, then it's like,
yeah, there's
I
not much
mean,
there, and then
no, tiny
sometimes
margins.
yeah, your time packing and your time doing customs forms, so before COVID, I could just post things to, like, abroad, and I wouldn't have to fill out any paperwork,
Mm,
but now you actually have to list every single item that's in the package and the cost, and that takes up a lot of time, and sometimes the other countries' customs don't even accept it, and it gets sent back to you, so there's quite a lot of little things like that that add up time-wise, I guess, and then all the new kind of rules that come in, and also Royal Mail had a hack attempt, and that took the mail down, I think it was like a week or so, it was a while, but when they started back up, they made it a lot stricter for when you were sending items abroad. So that's when the whole listing every single item came in, and you have to write your name and all your business details. For every single thing I post abroad, I have to do that now. So there's little bits like that alongside the actual admin of the shop, I guess.
well, I suppose because you're running a physical shop, you're sitting on stock as well, like physical amounts of stock, which is money. And if that
Yeah.
doesn't sell
I know,
or
and sometimes you're, like, sitting there and you're like, "I wonder how much money is just sitting around me in the shelves." I remember during COVID when I had to shut, and I was like, "Oh my god, like, how much money is in this room? Like, when are we
Mm,
gonna open back up again? Like, are we gonna open back up again?" Like, that was a very testing, horrible time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how do you balance like running the shop and all of that admin with creating stencils and the actual producing and marketing of them and painting actual faces?
Yeah,
How do you
I
do
don't
all of
know.
that?
I don't
I don't know.
I don't. I think when people meet me, I'm always a little bit frazzled sometimes. It makes me sad that I don't get more time to design stencils. I think in an ideal world, I would maybe book a cabin in the woods with my
Mm,
iPad and sit for a week and then sit and do a lot of design work. I try to just maybe do like an hour of design work a day or give myself a deadline and then I'll squeeze it in basically or do it in the evening. So postage cut off tends to be around 4, 5 p.m. So before then, it's my main focus is packing orders. And then after that, I can come back in and look at design or things with admin and stuff like that. But I can be here till maybe like 7, 8 o'clock at night sometimes doing things and then I get home.
what trends are you seeing in products and purchasing habits at the moment?
Toy Story's back because the film is coming out. So,
Mm,
and then lots of cars actually recently. They seem to be getting quite big. Other ones, and then evening. I think a lot of people are doing more evening and like airbrush work now as well. And that seems to be getting bigger in the UK. So there's definitely an increase in that. But then you always get the most popular ones like unicorns and stars and all those ones that will never go away. I guess they're your good staples.
yeah, and the K-pop ones, they just went bananas almost
Yeah, I think they've
overnight,
got a
didn't they?
new film coming out as well. Very soon. So yeah, that's gonna be a whole other K-pop run, I guess, as
Mm,
well. I don't think that's going anywhere for a
no.
while.
So with the airbrush tattooing sort of like picking up in the UK now, that's going to increase demand for stencils as well, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I do have some. I'll bring more out. Again, it's sitting down and actually designing them and
Yeah.
doing them. I'm gonna get some of Wiser's stencils in as well, so
Mm.
you get really good stencils for airbrushing.
Yeah, I saw Wiser at the London Jam a few weeks ago, and he was showing sort of like all of his different airbrush stencils and the shading tools that go with them,
Mm.
and all of this. And I was like, wow, it's a whole nother world, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And I mean, the way he did it, he makes it look effortless. He
I know
made it
he's a
look
total
so
wizard.
easy. And I was like, it's amazing.
He's a total wizard with the airbrush. He's so good at it.
So many face painters that I've spoken to have said about diversifying their income, either with teaching or developing brushes or online courses. What advice would you give to someone that was considering creating products or teaching or opening another income stream?
Just do your research, what's out there, so you're offering something different, I guess. Or even if you're not offering something different, just make sure you're confident enough that you're gonna balance your time out, because I think that's probably the thing I struggle with most at the moment is focusing on one thing long enough that you can give it your all and then move on to
Mm.
the next thing. Yeah, and don't diversify too much because I do that. I think I have that kind of toxic trait of being like, "I'll just try this," and then the next minute you've got like 6 businesses and you're like, "Oh my god, like how am I gonna like manage all this and all these different social medias?" It's like focus on one thing for 6 months and then go on to the next
Yeah.
thing.
I think because so many of us, the more and more people I meet, the more and more neurospicy I realize we
Yeah.
are as an industry. And I think we all, not all of us, a lot of us seem to suffer from the same character trait of, oh, well, I could probably do that myself.
Yeah.
I'll give that a go. And then before you know it, you've got 18 different hobbies on the go. And yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, "You don't need to monetize this hobby. This one can be just for fun."
How do you know when you're ready to expand a business?
I don't think you do know you're ready. I think you just kinda do it, because I think if you don't just do it, then you won't do it, basically. Like, if you think about it too much, then you'll put yourself off, or maybe other people put you off as well. So, sometimes you speak to, like, your family members and like, "Are you sure you want to do that? Do you not already have enough on?" I'm like, "Yeah, I probably do have enough on, but I'll show you. I can."
Oh, too late. I've already done it.
Yeah, exactly. The website's already made and everything. I've got my business cards made. Do you want a business card? Yeah.
So, looking back, what would you say has been the most rewarding part of building multiple businesses then?
I just network with people. Like it's nice to meet people and be like, "Oh, I use your products and I really like them." And it's nice to see like a network, even in Glasgow, because when I started, I guess there wasn't that many face painters, but now when they come into the shop, I'm like, "Oh, it's so nice to see so many people pursuing a kind of creative kind of thing." I guess, especially when it's mums when they're maybe at that point in their life when they're not sure about going back to work and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to try this as a different kind of artistic outlet,"
Mm.
and it gives them confidence in their kind of artistic skills and a sense of themselves again. That's nice to see. Oh.
Do you have any concerns about the industry, sort of like in the future or at the moment?
There's always concerns like China, I guess, will copy all my stencils and everybody else's stencils.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that. And like you see them all coming up on Timu and all those tatty websites.
Yeah, and even on groups, you'll see people being like, "Oh, just buy them off Amazon or buy them off Temu." But a lot of those ones have been copied from stencil creators who are face
Mm.
painters. And I'm like, no, try and pay an artist, like a face painter who's actually invested time and effort into creating a product that helps other face painters. It's kind of like when you're a face painter and you go to a client and you're like, "Oh, please choose me because I've invested in my skills and I've put a lot of effort into what I'm doing as a job." Try and invest in your industry as well, because if you don't buy from your local retailers that have invested in the industry so far, then you'll lose them and you'll just be stuck with Amazon and Chinese companies.
So if you see one of your designs come up on a stencil on somewhere like Timu or one of those Chinese mass production warehouse shipping sites or whatever they are, do you do you report it? Is there anything you can do? Because that's your intellectual property, isn't it?
If it's China, there's nothing you can do. I don't think you can even copyright things that are on plastic, technically. There's a weird loophole there. So some stencil designers will send their designs off to China because they can obviously produce a lot of stencils for not a lot of money. But I've not done that because I just feel once you've done that, all your designs are in China, and what's stopping them copying them or like selling those files or just uh, making them for themselves and then selling them on, even though it would make my life a lot easier if I could mass produce a lot of stencils off-site, but I don't trust them enough to do it. So,
So all of your
um,
stencils are made on site.
yes, they are.
So buy POP
The
Stencils.
little laser cutter. So
Wow.
maybe I should try and find like a UK supplier that would mass make them. That would make my life a little bit easier, but
Mm,
it means I'm in full control of the quality. But then my machine is quite. It's not a big machine. It's like 660 centimeters by 30. So it's not the smallest machine, it's not the biggest, and it's not the fastest, but it does the job. But sometimes I think when people see my website, they think I'm this big, massive company, and I'm like, no, it's just me in my office with my little laser cutter. I'm like, I'm not like mass producing the
yeah.
stencils. Maybe in future I will.
Do you struggle to keep up with the demand then sometimes for some of the more popular stencils?
Yes. So during busy weeks, or if there is a massive trend, or maybe there's a big event and loads of face painters ask for a particular stencil, then yes, I will be here till maybe midnight or 1 a.m. cutting stencils. But even if that did happen and I had a contact in China or somewhere else that could mass produce them, by the time they got the stencils made and sent to me, I
Mm,
don't think it would have caught up in time. So and you can never really foresee trends sometimes as well. So I think cutting on kind of demand, I always try and keep a small amount of stock, but I wouldn't want to keep too much stock 'cause it is plastic and there is plastic waste there. So I don't want to be producing loads of stencils and then they just sit there and don't sell.
mm.
Because I don't think that's very sustainable as well. So it's better, I think, to be in control of that aspect of it.
How long does it take you to produce one stencil? Does the machine do one stencil at a time, or does it do like a sheet of them?
But like that size there, it does 9, and that can take about 15 to 20 minutes to cut, depending on
Oh,
how much is in the stencil. Probably 15 minutes, maybe. So I'll have that running in the background while I try to do other things or packing
mm,
and things, and then I'll switch it over and then keep it running all day, which works perfectly well as long as the machine doesn't break.
yeah.
Like
And
I
that
have done before.
machine's sort of like, yeah, the lifeblood of the business. If the machine
Mm.
goes,
Yeah, which has happened. I think the last time it broke was around Christmas, so it wasn't as bad because I wasn't as busy then. And it also costs about £800 for someone to come out and fix it, which is a lot of money.
Jesus, just to
Yeah,
fix it.
the engineer comes up from England and drives up, and they charge you quite a lot of money to fix it. So there has been times I've fixed it myself.
Mm,
I've got a screw fix around the corner. And if it's just a mechanical thing that like it needs an extra screw or something like that, I have surprised myself by fixing it. But if it's an electrical thing, then I need an engineer. So it's an expensive thing to run. And if I need a new laser tube, that's about £300-400 as well. So when people see stencils, they think, oh, Mylar's quite cheap to buy, but
mm.
running my laser cutter, the laser tube, and maintenance and all that kind of stuff, and electricity, obviously. And where it is, my studio costs money as well. So all those things add up. And on top of that, I still have to pay myself to operate the machine. So yeah, all adds up.
Wow. But do you know what? I'm really pleased that I asked those questions because
Yeah.
you just, in my head, it's as easy as just like printing it off. But
Yeah, like a
obviously it's
printer.
not.
Some people do
Or,
call it a laser printer, but it's quite a dangerous machine. Like it can go
yeah.
on fire really easily. So some people are like, why do you not cut wood? Because you can laser cut and etch wood and stuff on it, but it leaves a kind of residue on the laser cutter. So if I cut wood, I need to clean it a lot with like Dettol because it'll get onto my stencils, which was what I struggled with when I was in university using their laser cutter. Because a lot of people were cutting plywood before. And then I would
Mm,
put the stencil sheet on top of that and it'd leave residue on the stencil. So now I pretty much just do Mylar because wood and acrylic, little bits fall off the material and it can go on fire really easily. So you need to stand by it, otherwise the whole thing can go up in flames. It's got a fire extinguisher next to it. It's got an extraction unit and it's got a big tube, so all the dust that comes off the mylar, it's like this horrible, kind of like white paste almost it turns into. But I would be breathing that in if it wasn't for that extraction unit. So I need to make sure the extraction unit's working well as well. And it's also got a cooler, like a water unit that takes like special water and that runs through the laser tube to cool it down as it's firing. And if that gets bubbles in the tube, it can break, it can smash the laser tube. So I need to check that every day as well. So there's quite a lot of wee things that go with the laser cutter
mm.
that make it potentially quite dangerous.
So
But it's a really cool machine.
you literally can't just set it up, say, print all of these things and then leave it doing its thing for the day. You've got to be on
No, you always
hand.
have to stay close to it. You can normally smell it if something's going off as well. So if I just go round the corner away from it, I can tell by the noise and a smell that something's not quite right. It's never gone on fire, touch wood.
Oh, I'm touching wood as well. I'm like, oh God, if we've jinxed
No,
it.
no. It's got an air unit in it as well, which blows air. So while the laser's firing, there's a little tube that blows air to cool the beam down. So that tends to put out any little kind of mini fires that start. But there is a fire extinguisher there if I need it, but I've never used it. Thank God. It is a
Yeah.
very expensive machine if it goes wrong.
Do you know what?
It's a very expensive machine to buy too.
I've got a football tournament on Saturday. And the amount of footballs I'm going to paint every time I use my stencil, I'm going to think
Mhm.
the little stencil that I thought was just a bit of plastic comes with all of that in the background that's gone on to produce that stencil. Definitely a greater appreciation for it.
Yeah. It's an amazing machine and they can do so much. But yeah, when it goes wrong, it can go very wrong.
So, what does the future look like for Pop Stencils and Face Paint Pro?
I'd like to do more jams, I think. I'd probably need to get a van though, to fit everything in. And probably do more events up here. Hopefully I'll be able to get a bigger space at some point, because yeah, I'm a bit packed in at the moment in here.
And have you got any specific goals over the next few years that you're working towards?
Probably, yeah, do more classes. I'd like to do more classes and hopefully balance my life a little bit better than what I've been doing and remember to rest more.
Okay, coming up to the end of the episode, so quick fire round now if you're ready for it.
Yes, okay.
Okay, easy one to start with, which is tea or coffee.
Coffee.
Favorite face paint color?
Bollywood pink.
What brand's that?
Chameleon?
I'm gonna look it up after.
Mhm.
Favorite stencil that you've ever designed? I think I asked this earlier, didn't I? Got excited and asked it too early.
Probably the bat one. Yeah.
Nice. Most painted design throughout your career?
Unicorn, probably.
Biggest face painting disaster?
I was on a ship, face painting once, and we crashed into another ship. That's probably the biggest face paint. That could be a whole other episode, probably, couldn't it?
Why have you
Yeah, we
left that
crashed
till the
into another.
end?
I know. Yeah, I was. I think I was 20, and I was on a ship, face painting for Norfolk Line ferries, and we crashed into a shipping boat while I was doing balloons and face painting in the foyer. But yeah, the whole boat just swerved. I was on a boat for 6 weeks, and yeah, we hit another ship. And somebody died. So yeah, that's probably actually the biggest face painting disaster. And it was near the end of my trip as well. I think it was like 5 weeks in. And for the rest of my journey, the timeline was off because we'd been late that day.
Mm.
And I had to explain to everybody. I think they made me actually sign an NDA, so I don't actually know if I'm allowed to actually even talk about it anymore. But the captain of the ship went to jail and everything because he killed a 16-year-old boy in the other ship. So yeah, that's probably the biggest face painting disaster. You just never know what's going to happen when you're face painting, do you? Yeah.
Do you know what? I never know what's going to happen when I'm doing this podcast. I had no idea you were going to say that.
I know.
Yeah, let me know if we're not allowed to keep that in.
Yeah. I think he's been to court and everything now, and he went to jail, the captain, because I think it came out that he did have enough time to avoid that fishing.
Mm.
They weren't looking where they were going, to be fair, and I think they were underneath under what's the bottom of the boat? They were underneath, and they just weren't checking what was around them. But he was a massive, big cruise ship, and he had enough time. It was determined that he had enough time to get out of the way, and he didn't. But he did an emergency swerve, and I remember it. I remember being in the foyer, and the night before they just put a load of alcohol in the gift shop, and it all like smashed to the floor with this massive big swerve. And then when we got back to where we were docked, they had to send divers down to check damage to underneath the ship and everything. It was really horrible. Yeah, you just never know what's going to happen when you're face painting on these kind of things. So, nah,
I don't know what to say to that.
I know.
Okay, so back to my silly little questions. Follow up from that. What's your favourite type of event to paint at?
Ooh, probably festivals, even though they can get very muddy and messy, and everything can get a
Mm.
bit messy and muddy, but it's the best vibe. So,
What's one business tool you couldn't live without?
booking forms, yes, makes your life so much easier.
And if you weren't running Pop Stencils, what would you be doing?
Maybe a gardener.
That's what I do.
Hey,
That's what I
that's
do
so
during
good.
the week. So I do gardening during the week and face paint at the weekends.
Hey. Yeah, I've just got an allotment, so now I'm like, plants are
Nice.
so nice, and yeah, they're so lovely. It's so nice being around plants.
Yeah, you've got the bug until it's like this last week, which is not great. All of
Right.
my work's been rained off. So this is why I have the face
Mhm.
paint. Face paint is the other 50% of what I do because gardening is just so weather dependent. But yeah, if you've just got an allotment, then you've just got the allotment bug, haven't you? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's going to become your life for a while.
Yeah, my boyfriend's like, "Why is there so many tomato plants in the living room?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna put them in the allotment once I know it's safe." And I'm like,
Yeah.
'cause I go and see them every morning and I'm like, "Check this, like, they're okay and everything." I'm
Yeah.
like, "But once they're in the allotment, I can't go check them every morning."
Yeah, you talk to your plant babies. I just got to check they're okay, or there's going to be a frost tonight, so I'm going to bring them all in again.
Yeah. I'm like, "Maybe we're safe now, but the weather's still been a bit rubbish, so who knows?"
Who knows? And then what's one thing that most people don't know about you?
Oh, that I'm deaf, probably. I wear hearing aids, which I actually only found out when I was 30, I think, or coming up for 30. I was actually at Bath Body Art in one of the Bell tents. They go to Bath Body Art, by the way, it's a really good event. But I was in there, and one of my friends was at one side of the tent, and one was at the other, and they were having a conversation, and I was like here, and I was like, I can't hear what you are saying, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should go get my hearing checked. And I did when I got back, and they're like, yeah, you're mid-frequency deaf. So
And had you always been deaf, or and just not known, or had
yeah,
it
since
slowly
birth.
developed, or
They said it would be since birth, so nobody's noticed. My parents, my school didn't notice. And then think back, I'm like, yeah, I did really struggle doing like hearing, like exercises, and really struggled when I was studying French. You know those really old cassette tapes that they would put on, and I was like, some people were quite good at it, and I'm like, super struggled with that. And I'm like, maybe
yeah,
it was because I couldn't actually hear most of it. But apart from that, I think I've maybe that's neurospicy thing where you just kind of mask stuff to get
yeah,
through as well. So I'm like, even if my own parents didn't notice, then how was I going to notice? This is just what
yeah.
I've always known, I guess. But yeah, now
Wow.
I do have hearing aids. So, but I have noticed that there's noises that I didn't hear before. So like pencil on paper
Mm.
and just things like actually scratching your own head. I'm like, oh, there's a noise to that. I didn't know that before.
That's made me itchy now.
Yeah,
But yeah.
some little things that you don't notice. Yeah.
Wow. And so where can people find you? Where can people follow your face paint work? Because I'm assuming you've probably got 3 different Instagrams or
Yes, face paintings, Blue Moon Body Art underscore GLA,
Mhm.
and then you've got Pop Stencils and Face Paint Pro, and then for snow windows, you've got Snow Doodles as well on Instagram. Yeah.
There you go. 4 links I'll put in the description. And thank you, Lisa, so much for coming on. It's been great talking to you.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thank you.